Space. It's the final frontier, or, at least, it's the next one in our bid to explore reality. After more than 50 years since Apollo 17, humanity is finally heading back to the moon. But this time, it's not about planting flags or snapping photos. It's about building a future. Enter NASA's Artemis Project, a multi-phase mission to return humans to the lunar surface and establish a permanent presence there. It's ambitious, it's groundbreaking, and it somehow involves Prada. Yes, that's right, the fashion house. Meanwhile, China's stepping up as a serious contender in this new era of lunar exploration, sparking a rivalry that's been dubbed the new space race. In this video, we'll take you through 10 essential steps to understand the Artemis Project and how it ties into this modern-day race to the moon. By the end, you'll be ready to dazzle your friends with facts about moon dust, lunar bases, and why it matters that we're going back at all. But before we dive in, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Tenfold Gold. We're here to turn complex ideas into clear, fun insights, and we'd love for you to join us on this journey. Now, let's launch. Step 1. What is the Artemis Project? The Artemis Project is NASA's ambitious plan to return humans to the moon and set the stage for the exploration of Mars. Named for the Greek goddess of the moon and twin sister to Apollo, the project builds on the legacy of the Apollo missions, but with a more forward-looking approach. Instead of quick visits, Artemis aims to establish a sustainable presence on the moon. Think research stations, resource extraction, and even a staging area for deeper space missions. It's not just about astronauts hopping around in zero gravity either. Artemis is laying the groundwork for humanity's future in space. The ultimate goal is to learn how to live and work on another planet, skills that'll be crucial for eventual missions to Mars and beyond. Step 2. Why are we going back to the moon? You might be thinking, didn't we already do the whole moon thing in the 1960s and 1970s? Yes, but there's still so much to discover. For one, the moon's south pole is thought to contain water ice in its permanently shadowed craters. This ice could be a game changer. It can be turned into drinking water, oxygen, or even rocket fuel. And then there's the science. The moon is a pristine laboratory for studying the history of our solar system. Its surface holds clues about the early days of Earth and could help us understand planetary formation. But it's also not just about science. The moon is also a strategic stepping stone. Testing the technology and techniques needed to survive there will prepare us for Mars. And let's not forget the prestige. The moon is once again a stage for global competition, and Artemis is NASA's way of reclaiming leadership in space exploration. Step 3. A quick recap of Artemis 1. The Artemis program officially kicked off with Artemis 1 in November 2022. This uncrewed mission was a test flight for the Orion spacecraft and the Space Launch System, or SLS, NASA's most powerful rocket ever built. The goal of the launch was to ensure everything worked as planned before putting humans on board. During the mission, Orion traveled over 40,000 miles beyond the moon, giving NASA critical data on how the spacecraft performs in deep space. While the mission was a success, it wasn't perfect. The Orion capsule's heat shield experienced more wear than expected during re-entry, prompting NASA to tweak the design for future flights. Despite these challenges, Artemis 1 proved one crucial thing. We're ready to send humans beyond low Earth orbit for the first time in decades. It was the opening act in what promises to be a thrilling new era of space exploration. Step 4. Artemis 2, testing the waters. Next up is Artemis 2, scheduled for 2026. This will be the program's first crewed mission, with 4 astronauts attempting a 10-day journey around the moon. It's a chance to test the spacecraft's life support systems and ensure everything is safe for future landings. Think of Artemis 2 as a dress rehearsal for the big event. The astronauts won't be landing on the moon, but they'll come closer than anyone has since 1972. This mission will also test NASA's ability to support a crew in deep space, marking a major milestone in human spaceflight. Step 5. Prada spacesuits, functional fashion. Now let's talk about the most stylish part of Artemis, the spacesuits. For Artemis 3, NASA has partnered with Prada to design the next generation of astronaut gear. Yes, you're thinking of the right Prada. We're talking about the fashion house. But don't let the glamour distract you. These spacesuits are all about functionality. Prada is bringing its expertise in textiles and advanced manufacturing to the table, helping create suits that can withstand the moon's harsh conditions. We're talking extreme temperatures, radiation, and the ever-annoying moon dust, which sticks to everything like glitter at a kid's party. And sure, looking sharp on the moon isn't the main goal, but it's a nice bonus. Who says science and style can't coexist? Step 6. Building a lunar base, Project Olympus. So we've landed astronauts back on the moon. What's next? A permanent lunar outpost, of course. This isn't just science fiction anymore. NASA is working on Project Olympus, an initiative to create habitats on the moon using 3D printing technology. Why 3D printing? Well, bringing construction materials from Earth is expensive and impractical. Instead, NASA plans to use local resources, primarily lunar soil or regolith, to print structures directly on the moon. Imagine robots building habitats, labs, and storage facilities, all made from moon dust. These habitats will allow astronauts to stay on the moon for extended periods, conducting experiments and preparing for missions to Mars. It's like setting up a research station in Antarctica, only with less ice and more radiation. Step 7. China's lunar ambitions. While NASA is laser-focused on Artemis, China is quietly working on its own lunar program, and it's anything but modest. The China National Space Administration, or CNSA, has announced plans to land astronauts on the moon by 2030, and they're making steady progress toward that goal. Their strategy includes developing the Long March 10 rocket and the Lanyue lunar lander, both critical components for a successful crewed mission. But that's not all. China is also collaborating with Russia on the International Lunar Research Station, a project that could establish a permanent presence on the moon. China's approach is methodical and strategic, focusing on building capabilities step by step. While the US leads the pack with Artemis, China's growing ambitions are reshaping the landscape of lunar exploration, setting the stage for a new space rivalry. Step 8. The new space race. The original space race was one of the defining events of the 20th century, with the US and the Soviet Union battling for dominance. Fast forward to today, and we've entered a new era. This time, the competitors are the US and China, and the stakes are higher than ever. The Artemis program represents NASA's effort to maintain its leadership in space exploration. For China, the moon is a chance to showcase its technological prowess and gain geopolitical clout. Whoever dominates this new space race could shape the future of space travel, from setting international norms to controlling access to lunar resources. But it's not all competition. There's potential for collaboration too, especially when it comes to shared challenges like planetary defense or space debris management. For now, though, the race is on. Step 9. Why this matters. You might be asking, why should I care about the moon, Artemis, or this new space race? Well, here's the thing. Space exploration has always been about more than just space. It's about advancing technology, inspiring humanity, and ensuring our future. Take GPS, for example. It started as a military project during the Cold War and is now essential for everything from navigation to delivery apps. The same goes for medical imaging, weather forecasting, and even memory foam mattresses, all born from space research. And then there's the existential angle. Earth's resources aren't infinite, and climate change is a growing threat. Establishing a presence on the moon is the first step toward becoming a multiplanetary species. It's not just about curiosity, it's about survival. Step 10. What's next for Artemis? As of now, Artemis is making steady progress. Artemis 2 is gearing up for its 2026 launch, and Artemis 3 is set to follow in 2027 with its historic lunar landing. NASA is also fine-tuning the technology needed for longer lunar stays, from life support systems to robotics. Meanwhile, China is pushing forward with its 2030 deadline, and private companies like SpaceX are developing their own lunar missions. The next decade will be pivotal, with milestones that could redefine humanity's relationship with space. For Artemis, the journey doesn't end with the moon. NASA is already planning its Mars campaign, using lessons learned from Artemis to tackle the challenges of interplanetary travel. It's an exciting time to be looking up, literally. And there you have it, the full story of the Artemis Project and the new space race, broken down into 10 steps. From moon bases made of dust to international rivalries, it's clear that the next chapter in space exploration is going to be epic. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Tenfold Gold. We're here to keep you informed, entertained, and ready to impress your friends with fascinating facts. Which part of Artemis excites you the most? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, keep looking up, and who knows, maybe one day we'll be going to the moon, not to visit, but to stay.